The sun over the dead. You never know when everything will change. For us, in the quiet town of Hayden Creek, the change came with the first bodies found in the forest outside of town. At first, the police thought it was an accident. But when the second body was found, and then the third, it became clear that it wasn't an accident. It was a maniac. He was unlike the ones we'd heard about on TV. There were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses. The victims simply disappeared, and then their bodies were found in the forest, but with one strange feature: their faces held an expression of deep, peaceful sleep. It was not only creepy but also paradoxical. Our fear turned into a disturbing fascination. We called him the sleeping maniac. He left no evidence, no fingerprints. His crimes were perfectly clean. The police were in despair, and we, the residents, began to live in constant terror. We locked ourselves in our homes, checking the doors and windows 3 times, and every shadow seemed like a threat. But the scariest part began when the police released one strange detail. Before disappearing, each victim sent the same message to their loved ones. It was a short, but very chilling phrase: "The sun over the dead is all that remains." No one could understand its meaning. But when my brother, who was obsessed with the case, found an old article online about a strange ritual, everything fell into place. It spoke of an ancient cult that believed that through murder, one could achieve eternal peace for the victim, and the only way to indicate this was to leave the body in a place where the sun would shine on it. But that wasn't the worst part. One night, I couldn't sleep. I heard a faint sound coming from the kitchen and decided to check. Instead of a burglar, I saw my brother. He was sitting at the table, staring out the window, and his face was as pale as a sheet. He slowly raised his gaze, and I saw that his eyes were filled not with fear, but with a strange, ominous calm. "Find my phone," he whispered, and his voice was almost unrecognizable. I sent a message. I didn't understand what he meant until I saw his phone. On the screen was the message he had just sent me. It contained the same chilling phrase: "The sun over the dead is all that remains." That same day, his body was found in the forest. He was lying with his eyes closed, and his face held an expression of deep, peaceful sleep. And the sun was shining on him. But if he sent me the message before he died, then who was in my kitchen that night? And how did he end up in the forest when I was at home, just a few meters away from him? Could it be that the sleeping maniac doesn't kill but simply helps people find their eternal peace, and his victims follow him willingly? The price of peace. I couldn't come to terms with my brother's death for a long time. The police considered it a suicide, but I knew the truth. I knew he couldn't have done it. He was in my kitchen, he was alive when I saw him. Someone came for him. And that someone must have been the sleeping maniac. I decided to take the investigation into my own hands. I started by rereading all the news about the missing people and their messages. I was looking for a pattern that the police couldn't find. And I found it. Every message sent before death contained not only the phrase "the sun over the dead is all that remains," but also one more strange detail: it contained the title of a song. Each song was sad, melodic, and its lyrics spoke of peace, of eternity. I created a playlist that I called the Sleeping Maniacs Collection. I listened to these songs for hours. And the more I listened to them, the more it seemed to me that they were not just sad, but hypnotic. They seemed to lull me, to take away my thoughts, my pain. I felt as if my heart was calming down and my body was becoming lighter. One time, I fell asleep listening to these songs, and I had a strange dream. I saw my brother. He wasn't in the forest, but in some quiet place where the sun was shining. He was happy. He was smiling, and his eyes were filled with peace. "You're not afraid," he whispered to me in my dream. "You just feel calm." I woke up with a trembling heart. I started to understand what was happening. The sleeping maniac wasn't a killer. He was not a murderer, but a healer. He helped people who were suffering find their peace. He found them through the music they listened to, through their messages. He was like an angel who sent souls to a better world. I started searching for old messages on the internet. I looked for people who were unhappy, who were looking for a way out. And I found hundreds of such messages. I found people who had sent a final message to their loved ones. And I saw that their messages also contained the titles of songs. I found people who had disappeared, and their bodies were never found. And then I realized that the sleeping maniac was not one person, but a whole community. These were people who found each other on the internet, who shared their pain. They were like me, they were looking for answers. And they found them. They believed that through death they could find their peace. And now I stand before a choice. I can call the police and tell them everything I know. But then I risk that the police will persecute these people who are simply looking for their peace. Or I can leave everything as it is and join them. I know my brother would want me to be happy. But can I find my peace the same way he did? Zginirui straszny foto rozmiar 16:9 dla zastawki na YouTube щоб це було straszne ta intriguюче.